Marco Sanfilippo now sits on 4 wins and holds a lead of more than a victory's worth of points. The first half of the season looks very much like it's going his way, but nothing is written in stone until the last checkered flag of the season falls. So tune in to see what twist in the story comes today as we get ready to watch Round 7 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. I am Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Willow Springs is an old-school track that will fit the old-school style of these cars, so let's get a closer look at it with our track guide. Welcome to Willow Springs International Raceway. As the oldest permanent road course in the U.S., it holds a particular place of distinction among American motorsports fans. The circuit is just an hour and a half north of Los Angeles, and because of this, it has been used in various films and TV shows over the years. With only 9 turns over 2.5 miles, or just over 4 kilometers, you'd think it's a pretty simple affair. But the incredible camber, numerous elevation changes, and some diabolically fast corners means there's complexities here to keep drivers busy for years. The downside is that there are a few heavy braking zones throughout the lap, and most are not in a straight line. Rabbit's Ear and Turn 9 each require the driver to carry tremendous speed and aim for frighteningly late apexes. Meanwhile, the run past the Budweiser balcony all the way through the Monroe Ridge takes you on a roller coaster of rises and drops, all while dipping left and right with wild changes in banking. Sadly, there are a few series that visit the track in present day, but it stays extremely active through club racing, driver coaching, and private test days. It has long been a favorite for both fans and drivers, and once you get onto the track, it'll be easy to see why. This is another track with a lot of fast corners, Joey, so with these cars, it's going to be a wild ride.
It is incredibly fast out here in Southern California. 9 turns, 2.5 miles in length, and just about 90 minutes north of Los Angeles. A popular filming location, so you see it in a lot of movies and especially the commercials. It's an incredibly fast track, like you just heard, with plenty of space to race out there. It is very, very wide. Turn 1 is actually not the heaviest brake zone. It's actually further towards the top of the hill at turn number 3. Sectors 1 and 3 are the fastest, while Sector 2 actually has a tricky set of corners that the drivers have to kind of climb up and down that hillside up there at the Budweiser balcony. And then going down into that final sector, the sweeper down there, turns 8 and 9, it's going to be interesting to see the downforce levels versus the top speed levels. And yeah, turn 9 down there, it is as late of an apex as possible. It almost seems like the apex physically jumps out into the track. That's how doozy of a corner turn number 9 is.
It can be so tough. We'll see a lot of drivers probably struggle with that one today. But the championship doesn't seem to be much of a struggle this time for Sanfilippo. As I said, he's got a pretty handy lead right now over Topi Cortinimi. But some of that is flattered by the fact that there is a 0 for Topi, and he only scored 2 points last time at Road America. Now, they have drop weeks involved in this series, and those are going to start being scored a little later in the season. So even Topi himself said he expects to kind of start closing that one in. So we'll see how that all looks, as Dylan Freckleton is a bit of a distance behind, but has a very strong fight with Danilo Sanfilippo, the brother of Marco. From there, watch for the fight between Roseboro, Roper, DeMay, Ackerman, and Reed, as they are only split by a little less than 30 points from 6th down to 10th. So a really tight one in that group. But that is the F1 championship. Let's take a look at the F2 drivers.
The only difference is the iRating. Under 3,000 iRating for these drivers, and it is very close up top. You see John Stevens right now leading the way. Tomas Bartfai only 4 points behind. Little bit of a separation between them and Daniel Gallus. Same thing with them down to Kurt Clapper, but then Thomas Silbernagel only a single point there behind Kurt, arguing over the top 5 positions. Include Yanni Lehman, Jason Krakowiak, Ben Summers, who's tied along with Keith Herner down there, and Byron Long, all in the top 10.
Now, we also have a teams championship that they run in this series, and with Danilo and Marco up there in the driver's points, as you can expect, they're currently leading the way. And look at the margin, it is massive over Team Alfa Romeo with Boscus and Stevens down there. From there, it's basically a fight for best of the rest amongst the other drivers as they all kind of clump closer together. But SEO 9000 has just been really tough to try and keep up with. So everybody is chasing them at this stage, even though we're only halfway through the championship. Of course, we've got today's race details. Joey, why don't you help familiarize our audience?
It is round number 7 of 12, so on the back half of the championship, and 35 laps today. Yes, that is right. These cars are moving around Willow Springs. An open setup, which means this is not spec racing. Open up that garage tab, tweak and tune on the car so that way it responds best to how you are driving this specific racetrack. No spare car available, so if you pick up any damage, you're going to have to live with it on the racetrack. A drive-through penalty at 17 incident points. Disqualification at 25 incident points. There is a lot of runoff here at Willow Springs, and it is the high desert, so if you go off, it can be bumpy on the outside of the circuit. These cars, specifically the 79s, they have lots of tunnels that make the downforce. Got to be careful about those off tracks here.
Do not want to hurt that underside of the car, that is for sure. As it looks like qualifying is already done, actually. Drivers have wrapped up quick because the laps are so short around here. And Topi Korteniemi currently has the quickest lap of anybody. Do not see Marco here today. So he's going to have to take a 0 and rely on his drop points in a bit. But as we saw, he's going to be leading after the end of this race, regardless, since he has more than Winsworth over Topi, no matter what he does, even if he gets a perfect score. But I gotta think that having that track position going to be one of those big points for today's race.
It will be, as it always is, but I think what I'm more curious about, because the laps are so fast here, and we got a lot of cars here today, Joe. What did we have, like 35 or 36 cars here in the top split? So it is going to be a packed racetrack, a very, very short racetrack. I think we're going to see a lot of lapped traffic come into play here today.
And there's no split either, so there's going to be a wide variety of lap times. From first to the last time set, you've got 10 seconds between them. So yeah, they're going to be catching that lap traffic quite quickly. As now officially the clock hits 0 on our qualifying session, which means our grid is truly set, and your starting order sees Topi Korteniemi on the pole with Luca Bracali next to him, and Juho Raina starting from 3rd. Gernot Friesche, great qualifying today here from 4th position. Same with Bjorn Ackerman. Look at that, top 5 for him. Farron Grau starts from P6, as Tomas Bartfai will be in the 7th position. Kevin Parrish will be 8th, and it'll be Jean-Francois Boscus, P9. And Kurt Clapper actually set a time. He'll start from the top 10.
And across the page, we got the number 26 of Manning Grinnan. And then Josh Brain is going to be lined up in 12th next to him. Nathan Finnegan in 13th with Timothy Vandenberg in 14th. Byron Long starting in 15th with Daniel Gallus in 16th. JDS on row number 9 and 17th with Adam Klatska in 18th. Thomas Silbernagel and Richard Thurston make up row number 10.
Barry West is next in 21st. AJ Roper in 22nd. Those two seem to usually race each other a lot. Robert Simpkins, P23, followed by Russell Hamilton in 24th. Jana Lehman will be on the quarter century mark. Emilio Dicciari will be in 26. And it's Bruno Raya in the 27th spot. Uwe Zalbauer will be in P28. You've got Ben Summers, 29th, flanked by Keegan Sell, the last to set a time in 30th. From there on down, it'll be Clapper, Urquhart, Villershausen, Runkel Jr., and Jimenez, rounding out your 35 cars, getting ready to start this one. Just about have all the cars lined up and ready to go. Just a couple that need to line themselves up on the grid. So going to be starting very shortly here. And it is a decently warm track, but not overly warm. So just about ideal conditions for the drivers here towards the end of the year at this Southern California track. There we go. We've got the signal that we're ready to get racing as the engines now start to rev. The lights come up and the green flag is out. A huge field of cars head down into the first corner. It is not a good start for Topi Kortiniemi. He not only loses first, he loses second as they swing into the first corner. Ronnie going to try and take that away, but coming back at them. Here comes Topi Kortiniemi with the lead once again.
It was the cold tires from Prix, and he just couldn't stand on the gas on the exit, so Kortiniemi is able to get the lead back. Bjorn Ackerman had a fantastic start as well. He's going to drive up along the right side, challenge Gernot Frische here in turn number 3.
Bjorn looking very strong today. He's going to take that 4th position away as they now head up into the Budweiser balcony for the first time. This is that slow portion Joey was talking about, and then it plunges long ways downhill. Gernot Frische going wide, and someone in the background actually goes off and gets hit. Trying to make out that was Tomas Bartfai and Kevin Parrish.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a funnel section down there through that kind of short shoot downhill. Couple that with the cold tires, and just you have a lot of understeer on the opening lap. But one thing's for sure, Kortiniemi is trying to run away.
Aaron Grau looks like he's lost a number of positions as well. Wow, Bjorn Ackerman is on the hunt. He's looking for 2nd place now. Coming up into Castrol Corner, he's got the inside. Usually that should be enough, and he is ahead.
Luca Bercali is just slipping down. I think it was him that ran a little bit wide, too wide, through turn number 9 there and got passed by both Ackerman and Reina. And I want to echo what you were just saying. This is one hell of a race for Bjorn Ackerman. Keep at it, bud.
I mean, he's usually looking at trying for a top 10. This is a podium today. Depending on what pace he's got, we'll see whether or not he can keep up with Topi Kortiniemi, but he's a fast character here as we take a look at Jack David Spickett. He expressed his dislike of this circuit before we got to the green flag, so he sits in 9th. Usually we do see him a little higher as well.
Well, I got news for you, Jack. If you want to dislike the circuit even more, head out there in the real world. There is nothing around, and you're going to find out quickly that it's 20 degrees in the morning, 110 degrees in the afternoon, and then it's back down to freezing once the sun goes down.
Wow, dropping backwards. Kurt Clapper allowing a couple cars by. That's Vandenberg as well as Spickett. Maybe just trying to get to the finish on this one, as we could see a high attrition rate based on some of the accidents we've seen at the start. Manning Brennan in a little bit of side-by-side action into Castrol, but has to back out.
AJ Roper was that orange car, and now it's Josh Brain that's going side-by-side with Manning here. Now, you want to be on the left side of the racetrack when you get up to turn number 3. That's your biggest and best brake zone, so you see just edging ahead is the number 26 there, and actually got those flip-flop. It looks like Josh is going to lose out up and over the Budweiser balcony.
Yeah, Josh Brain has Klatska get by him as we watch Spickett now up into the 8th position, just ahead of them. Nathan Finnegan close in front, but it's hard to pass into this final corner. The sweeper, long double apexer, really not much in the way of braking for these cars. Vandenberg watching from behind of them as well. He'll try and get the launch off the final apex.
And I really feel like it's just a lift in these cars to close it into that late apex there. So now JDS using the slipstream, but it's a short front straightaway. Does he have the front grip to make the move on Finnegan? We got a car parked at the apex. Finnegan makes contact. That opens the door for JDS.
That was Kevin Parrish, a lapped car coming back, I think, after getting some repairs done. Man, that is really horrible to see. Nathan Finnegan's good race just kind of disrupted with just the tiniest of touches.
I think this was the opening lap here going down the hill. Oh, you know, I thought it was maybe an understeer moment, but it was actually Bartfai getting loose coming down the hill. The car does have a little bit of, call it light on its feet right here as you turn in, but then it catches with that compression and the extra camber in the racetrack. But cold tires, cold brain, around it went for Tomas.
And some of these curbs, you can see they're kind of that old school style. I'm guessing that probably does not play well with the ground effects of this machine.
I wouldn't expect so. The flatter you keep the platform, the more settled it is, the more happy it is. And oh, here we go. I think that was JDS running wide in turn number 9. Here comes Vandenberg.
Oh, no.
Roper made contact trying to bump draft him. And we got chaos cars spinning down into turn number 1.
That was the craziest ride I've ever seen for Timothy Vandenberg. I don't know if he did a full 720, but he went around a couple times, and he's still running. But I'm not sure that the car is perfectly clean at this point because he got touched. He definitely was bounding over the rough dirt around here, but he's still running in 16th. Somehow that car is still going.
I would be interested to see what JDS thought of that one, because he was getting past, and then all of a sudden a car was literally in his lap spinning around. But thank lucky stars that Vandenberg doesn't have more damage. I think just a little bit of miscommunication on a block, and around he went.
Goodness, I don't think I've ever seen something quite like that. And here's Farron Brown. What happened? Whoa, another car touching wheels. That is very much bad news in open wheelers, and that sent him spinning off towards the berm.
Bjorn Ackerman is given up second place here, so Juho Reina has finally found a little bit of his race pace, and his Lotus 79 is able to work around the Unicorn number 16. I'm curious to see. So Bjorn is typically a little bit more aggressive of a driver. I think that's one of the reasons why he was so good at the beginning of the race, getting up to second. But now that you got to settle in, I'm curious to see if he can hang out towards the front. He's obviously fast enough to be there.
A little bit of a slip up coming down into Monroe Ridge, though, so that cost him some time. But you're right, yeah. Despite the paint scheme, the Unicorn car is not all sunshine and sparkles. He likes to get in there and have a good battle. By the way, Timothy Vandenberg had a black flag for some reason, and I'm not sure why, but he's come in and parked it.
You know, that's an interesting one. I also wonder if maybe did he cut the course from turn 1 over to that turn 3 area after getting punted off the racetrack. Here comes a move, though. This is Bercali on the inside of Ackerman. Ackerman will defend that, by the way, as we get this replay of what happened to Roper and Vandenberg. Look at that, just kind of a block gone wrong, and Vandenberg goes spinning off into turn number 1.
Certainly one of the most spectacular visuals we've seen in some time. And again, with the lap traffic here, Bjorn Ackerman going by Luca Bercali. No, excuse me, that's for position. I thought he was overtaking a lapped car. Gernot Friesche in behind them. So this is all three still fighting for that podium spot. Bjorn looking very strong at the start of this race. Jumping back to Jason Clapper, though. He's going to be on the outside of Thomas Silbernagel, and they're going to make a little bit of contact. Jason has to slow up to keep from getting punted into the dirt.
Talk about getting the elbows out there in that situation. Is Bercali and Friesche are these two cars fighting. So before we got that replay, they had a tremendous run on Ackerman going into this next corner, turn number 1. But I think Bjorn is actually running a much, much higher downforce setup in comparison to these other cars. Talking about Bercali and Friesche. It might be working right now. It might not work at the end. We still got 20-plus laps.
I do love the beauty of sim racing. These drivers can communicate, and Silbernagel did immediately apologize for that contact. But what I noticed is Jack David Spickett, you wanted to know what his reaction was? He just said, "I need new pants."
And honestly, an appropriate reaction.
Yeah, for sure. Gernot Friesche still hot on the heels of Luca Bercali now that Luca has managed to get by him and is fighting with Bjorn Ackerman for this third spot, but he didn't get the run off of Monroe Ridge. He's going to give a nice tow to Gernot Friesche, but unless Gernot can get side by side, not much can be done. Look at how low they're running these cars. Sparks flying off the back of Luca's undercarriage here as he's trying to get this thing as glued to the ground as he can.
There is a tremendous top speed difference between third and fourth place. I'll let you know at the end of the straightaway, 9 miles an hour difference between Ackerman and Bercali. That shows you the downforce levels. Everybody, I think, is kind of testing the waters here at Willow Springs. Some people want a higher downforce with the confidence. Some people want the straight line speed because the back half of the track is pretty much wide open.
Brennan chasing on Kurt Clapper, AJ Roper in there. I kind of wondered why he was as far down as he was in qualifying. I usually see him a little higher up. Well, he missed his first qualifying lap, and he's making up for it. He's gained 14 spots in these first 9 laps. As Bjorn Ackerman, is he going to lose third place? He's going to go a little out wide, but he keeps it on the track and somehow defends. That gives Gernot Friesche a chance to try and sneak to the inside. No overtake, but tense moments here in the top spots.
And this is happening right now, so Ackerman slid a little bit wide. Can he use the downforce through turn number 9? He's at a disadvantage now, but he will be on the racing line, so can he use the brakes, go in crazy deep, leave space at apex for his competitor? They're still side by side, but Freesia is going to edge ahead.
Gernot, for those that aren't familiar and don't watch this series, is one of the winningest drivers in the Lotus 79s in the entirety of it. In fact, I think he's got more than double or triple the next driver down in terms of wins, but he just has not really seen much in the way of championships. We've started to see wins here and there out of him lately, but he's moved himself at least up into 4th. Luca Bracali's been trying to use their little tussle to run away from them, but it hasn't worked.
I think if I'm, call it the crew chief for Ackerman right now, I'm on the radio to Bjorn and saying, hey, settle in right now. See if you can go up there and attach yourself to the rear wing of Freesia. These cars might be a little bit faster in terms of the racing pace that they can do for 35 laps. So they might start to stretch it out, but see if you can go learn something. See if you can get pulled along for a little bit, because he does have a 6.5 second gap back to 6th place back there. So if Bjorn can kind of sit in the tire tracks, he can still come away with a very, very nice finish.
Another lapped car. That's going to be Juan Jimenez just staying off to the side, letting him through. Nicely done. I'm kind of curious, Joey, because it seemed like Bjorn was extremely strong at the start, and the car is falling off just a little bit in comparison to those around him. We're used to seeing the reverse, where a car will get stronger at the end. Do you have any idea what he could have done setup-wise that would make it do this?
I think it also comes down to the driver's characteristics as well. So what I'm typically seeing right now as we watch this battle, the higher downforce allows you to be more aggressive in the opening laps. Think about it, if you have the confidence and the grip underneath the car, that the cold tires don't matter as much. So those first 2 or 3 laps, you can call it go to 11 tenths and not have to worry about the car. But then maybe as the race pace kind of settles in and all the tires kind of warm up to their normal operating temperature, things level out. That's kind of what I would expect to be happening with a higher downforce setup. More aggressive through the turns and early on.
He's going to try and get aggressive on Gernot Freesia, but the outside of Rabbits here doesn't do the trick. Long uphill double right-hander for this one as well before they get up to 3, and the heavy braking that you were talking about, compression into this corner. Looking at Silbernagel now. He is still fighting with Jason Clapper despite their contact a little bit early. Looks like Jason's managed to move back ahead.
And Jason always does a tremendous job. You know, he never qualifies the car, so he always tries to get, call it the biggest mover, the most passes done in the race. I just saw something interesting kind of back up front with Bracali, Freesia, and Ackerman. We're starting to run into more and more of that lap traffic. They caught it up there at that Budweiser balcony section, and it brought all 3 of them much closer together again.
As we ride on board with Bjorn coming down the main straight, he's trying to pull the toe from Freesia, but that extra downforce, we believe, is not helping him out enough. Luca Bracali just in front, trying to still see if he can break that slipstream that he's providing the pair of them, but he's only able to get about half a second away from Gernot.
And you see Gernot actually go a little bit wide there through turn number 2. I think he was just trying to keep a little bit of clean air to the front end of the car, make sure that the front end, it doesn't have too much understeer. And this is going into that small downhill section after the Budweiser balcony. This compression can be so tricky. Make sure to hit your marks, and I think that's where Bjorn has actually been slipping up. This time it was Bracali who made a little bit of a mistake, so Freesia right on the back end.
But he catches him at such an awkward spot here coming down into the sweeper. Unless he can set something up for that run onto the main straight, it's going to be hard to overtake. He looks to try and get it in, but the car just does not grip in the dirty air, and he loses all kinds of time.
And let me put this into perspective for anybody watching. Going into that turn number 9 before they lifted off of the gas, I was watching 171 miles an hour. When they lifted off the throttle, 150 mile an hour minimum rolling speed through turn number 9. I mean, that's oval type fast.
Yeah, it's crazy here on a road course Kind of curious what their slowest speed even is around the lap. As you said, I think Budweiser Balcony probably going to take that flag. But we watch on board with Luca looking back at Gernot Frische. They can't seem to keep up with Juho Rinne, who is up in P2. So this is all kind of a fight to try and decide the last step of the podium. Getting close enough, you can now see the stripes on that number 2 machine. The number 5 is under threat as they have to weave their way past some lap traffic. Will stay out of the way to let them fight through.
Once again, 169 miles an hour before having to just kind of breathe the throttle to make sure the front end doesn't have too much understeer there through turn number 9. You see the number 31 just up the track. That's Zielbauer. That's going to be another lapped car that these leaders are going to have to navigate around. Topi is way out there, 5.5 seconds between himself and Juho, and Reine's done an excellent job to kind of gap himself away from this 3-pack as well.
Checking it, looks like he also holds the quickest lap. That's 2 bonus points, and Topi also started on the pole, so he's just about to that perfect score that he needs to start reeling in Marco Sanfilippo. And coming through that Budweiser balcony I watched, and it looks like about 69 miles an hour, their lowest speed on the lap.
Nice, and that's kind of what I noticed too. Very cool that this kind of Willow Springs racetrack is just so dang fast. I've got plenty of experience around this, albeit a little bit more just directly next door at Streets of Willow. One thing you got to watch out for being the high desert here, it is an extremely low grip racetrack. I'm curious about the tire wear. Being low grip, it's high degradation. We're approaching halfway right now. Do any of these setups fall off later?
Good question. And so far, we've got a few drivers that have lost positions, but most of them, I think, are due to incidents. Farron Grau's fallen back to 13th. We know he kind of spun off on that first lap. Make that 12th as he just made a pass. Around him here, we've got Manning Grinnan now behind him. Josh Brain in front. He's got Klatska up ahead. So there's definitely opportunities for him to get a few more spots.
This is our biggest pack on the racetrack. It starts all the way up at Kirk Clapper, like you were saying, and ends back there at Manning Grinnan. So about 5 cars. We're side by side here for what is 3rd place. Looks like Gernot. It's just so tough the long way around turn number 9. You're flat out there. So think of it like an autocross. The shortest distance will prevail until you get to that very, very last little apex where you kind of argue over who gets the clean air on the front wing.
Yeah, Luca definitely felt under threat that time because he kind of covered the inside. As we come back to Farron Grau, he got another one. Josh Brain already overtaken. That puts him into 11th. Klatska going to be the next one up the road, along with Kurt Clapper just in front of him. So a top 10 potentially after Farron started this race in P6. We thought maybe that Klatska had to think about trying to attack Clapper, but he just didn't have the speed.
I kind of had to scratch my brain a little bit here and wonder why Farron Grau was outside the top 10. Remember, he had kind of got collected in that first lap incident with Bartfy coming down after the Budweiser balcony. So maybe this red number 7 who is closing it in. He just spun it around as I was talking about him. I'm sorry, Farron. That is the commentator's curse.
Oh, what a shame. As we go back to Gernot Frische, trying to use that lap traffic to see if he can steal the march, and he does. It's a much better exit this time for Gernot, coming down across the start-finish line. He's trying to squeeze him. He wants to try and make his line all the more shallow into the first corner, but he's not having none of it. Luca Bracali, although he has the poor exit off of that right or left-hander, it switches back. Long way around. Can Gernot really do this? Around a double apex right-hander. He went to the left side and somehow made it stick for 3rd.
Perfectly executed. I really feel like the best passing opportunity is exactly what you just saw coming up the hill out of turn number 2 towards turn number 3. I actually think that Bracali might have even had a little bit of a wiggle going up the hill, so that just kind of accelerated Gernot up into that 3rd spot. And don't look now, Bjorn Ackerman is right in the mirrors. He smells blood in the water.
This could be one of his best opportunities because Luca's going to be on his back foot. And this is what happened with Farron. There's those curbs again. He just lifted the tires up. Car said, I don't like that. And around she goes.
We got a slipstream battle. Oh my goodness, Bercali has got some top speed in this thing. Either that or Freesia completely blew turn number 9. Look out for Ackerman. He's going to try to do the move that we just saw out of Freesia. He's not going to have the top speed. They all tuck back in line.
Tried to work some magic, but it just didn't quite happen. And that is surprising. Freesia usually really trims the car out as we get some blinking, unfortunately, from Luca.
He missed turn number 9. I just went back and looked.
Ah, that makes more sense now.
Yeah, he just went wide in turn number 9 and had to lift off of the throttle. That allowed Bercali that huge run. And that's one of the most frustrating things as a racing driver, right? You just spent the last, call it 20 laps trying to make this pass. You finally got it done, and the first corner you come up to, you blow it all and throw it out the window.
Gotta be so frustrating. Oh, here we go. That's Keegan's cell, and that is a big checkup. We're gonna go 3 wide down the main straight. Gernot knows he's got another lease on life. Could he take this 3rd place away as they fly down to the first turn? No, he cannot. Although he got almost alongside, and Bjorn Ackerman once again, he desperately wants to get in this fight, but it seems like every time he gets a chance, he gets shut down.
He does. He's just kind of grabbing the scraps at the dinner table, and I don't think that Gernot is probably too appreciative of the posturing that's going on down the front straightaway. I don't know if you saw him kind of squirm in the car around on driver's right side as Bercali kind of shut down that racing line. I think that Gernot definitely feels like he wants some clean air to the car, but he needs to get up alongside. It's going to get busy real fast here.
Oh, yeah, because you've got Dechari trying to pull out of the way. That's Jimenez as well. This gives a nice little double toe to the likes of Freesia, but it's not enough. He's going to try and open up this final corner. This has been the bane of his existence, trying to figure out how he can withstand the buffeting of the car ahead, and there's just not enough in it as you see him weave to try and hold onto the slipstream down the main straight.
I think this might be the key, though, is that the further you lap the field, the less giving they are going to be in terms of who's going to be letting the racing line happen for these cars coming up. Remember, they get faster and faster and faster the more you lap, so the more dirty air everybody is going to have to deal with as well.
I've seen a lot of cars with damage lately because I just looked down and there's been about 10 cars that have stopped in pit lane and taken repairs since then. As we come back to Farron Grau, twice now he's been sent down the field. He's back to 12th, so he's made up for some of it and gotten by Jason Clapper. Next on his list is going to be Manning Grinnan for, I guess, the 2nd time around.
And Jack David Spickett just had a big incident. He is missing a rear wheel. I believe it was with Keegan up here towards turn number 3. I think this is the GSRC replay we're going to get. There goes Keegan spinning around. JDS tried to avoid, but just didn't have enough room to really get around the car, and there is the left rear missing from JDS.
Not going to work well like that. Both cars towed into pit lane. So we've only had one official retirement before Vandenberg. Finnegan just joined, and it looks like we're about to have a few others that are now completely out of this race. So 3rd place sees Bercali there, but it has been Freesia at times. It's been Ackerman at times in this race, and we're only on lap 22. We still got a ways to go.
You know what would make me smile and jump up and down and cheer is if somehow Bjorn can steal away these 2 positions and end up on the podium at the end of this thing. He has done such a terrific job this race, and I really think this season, Joe, I think he's definitely stepped it up. We've seen him way more towards the front of the field, but seems like Willow Springs is definitely a party of speed for him.
Yeah, he seems to thrive at this track. This is much higher up than we've been seeing him for even this season, which, as you said, has definitely been a bit of a turning point for him. They'll go by another lapped car. Ben Summers off to the side down the main straight. And for the first time in a while, things are a little bit more calm into turn 1.
We kind of typically see the front of the field run away sometimes in these 79s, which I guess Topi and Yuho have kind of done. We haven't really mentioned them, but that's because this battle for 3rd place has been so good. But Bjorn, Gernot, Luca, they've all gapped themselves 16 seconds over 6th place. So I definitely put these 3 drivers in that upper category.
Very much so. Yeah, that is an impressive gap they've got to the rest of the field. I mean, you remember, that's 16 seconds when a lap around here is about 1:05. That's amazing. Here we go again with Freesia. Once again, Luca Bracali kind of covering off that inside line to prevent him from being able to steal that shorter distance. And that's going to make life difficult for Gernot coming back onto the main straight. Although he holds to him a little bit tighter this time, I just don't think it's going to be enough.
You can see it, at least in the camera shots that I'm watching. Oh my goodness, is this a pace lap on the back straightaway here? Looks like it's 2x2 as they're coming into turn number 9, but I think they're doing more like 160 miles an hour. Is everybody going to squeeze through here? This is a really big funnel. I think that's Farron Grau in the red car back there, and somehow we're all on the straightaway, still kind of side by side.
Yeah, that's a couple lapped cars that are trying their best to stay out of the way, but so much action is happening around them. There's no place to go. Farron still wheel to wheel with Manning Grinnan, and Grinnan cannot hold him back. So Farron's moved himself back into, wow, 8th position. Did we have some wrecks?
He spun the car twice. He's got an incredibly fast lap out there at a 104.5, so I think his realistic pace is up there with Bracali, Freesia, and Ackerman.
So I guess we lost Spickets. That explains one of them, but I'm not sure if there were others that I'm not accounting for. That's really a stunning return to the top. Well, not quite the top, but where he was shortly ago before he spun off course, as we once again turn our attention to the battle for P3. They're still, as they have been for now, much of this time. Bracali leads Freesia, leads Ackerman, and now we're getting down to the final 10 laps of this event. So who's going to do what? Who is going to show some desperation?
Up through turn number 3 is actually Bracali that slid a little bit wide, but this is the most important part, keeping the car nice and narrow to the right side there. That sets you up into this compression type turn. Ackerman actually slid just a little bit wide. I know that when I was doing practice laps here, if you don't have the front end of the car committed to the early side of the racetrack, you can just definitely slide out wide. I know that this was a little bit of a side-by-side moment here, but there's just nothing you can do on the outside of the racetrack as you're both accelerating. It has to come all right here, which Gernot just doesn't have the confidence in the front end to hold the car.
Unbelievable. They're getting close to their qualifying pace now, with Topi Kortaniemi hitting into the 103s and taking that fastest lap once again. By the way, just as an update, Kurt Clapper had a bit of an off and has now fallen to 14th. It's kind of funny how it's been contrasting fortunes. He qualified, Jason didn't, but Jason is ahead of him now.
You know, and I think, you know what? Kurt qualified in 10th, and Jason is currently in 10th.
Go figure. Jason's just too good at this climb through the field. In fact, is he going to get another? Because that was Josh Brain for 9th position, but he ran out of straightaway down into Castrol.
I think he will be able to get Brain as we jump back up here. There's more lap traffic getting in the way, and in fact, this is going to get really busy. Let's see if Freesia can force a move. It doesn't help that Bracali is kind of blinking in and out. That lap car is going to stick right on the racing line. Freesia is going to time the run out of turn number 9. Oh, it's going to be Ackerman with the run.
Whoa, but Ackerman almost slides the car out trying to pick which side he wants to go, and he picked a little too late. That hurt his momentum. Now they're going to be split as the lapped car thinks about going to the apex. A big slide from Freesia. He catches it, and Ackerman winds up spinning off the course as he hit the backside of Gernot. And, oh, man, I can't believe his race ended that way. That was going to be one of the best performances Bjorn has had all season long.
Absolutely a DNF for the number 16 Unicorn machine. It was the number 35 of Russell Hamilton, this white car here that he's in 17th place. He's just kind of hanging out here, and he has a right to the racetrack. It's just that he was constantly on the racing line as the leaders approached him. That's a frustrating one.
Well, I guess, as you see, you can't always catch a unicorn, and sometimes you fall off the horse, but he's going to get back up, I'm sure, and try again a little bit later. Topi Kortaniemi now about 7 seconds ahead, as Juho Reina behind him gives chase, but just doesn't seem to have the pace and is kind of running a bit of a lonely P2 all race long. Topi has been dealing with this traffic quite admirably, as we only have, 13 cars left on the lead lap.
Yeah, it is been a little bit of a high attrition rate for sure, and I even see Bjorn in the chat there. It says best race ever, and then it ended like that. Definitely a bit of a bummer, but Bjorn, if you're out there listening, come join us. We'd love to talk to you, see how your pace has been going this year, see what your new practice regimen has been, because it's been pretty impressive so far.
And I hope he does watch and really gets to see that it's not gone unnoticed, that we have been heaping the praise that I think that drive deserved. Topi Kortaniemi now on to lap 29, as there is Juho Raina just behind in the number 3 machine, also ticking on to the latest lap. About his best hope, honestly, is that traffic maybe holds up Topi for him to catch him at this stage. Same thing with Luca Bracali, almost 12 seconds behind him. They're a little too spread apart.
I got a chuckle at the liveries from Juho Raina and Gernot Frisha, because they got the giant penthouse on the rear wing, and I know that every time I went to Willow Springs, the Playboy Grand Am race team that ran the Nissan 350Zs way back in the day, 370Zs, is actually based out there at Willow Springs. So it's amusing to see Penthouse and Playboy at the same racetrack.
Yeah, right. Certainly seems like they're willing to get a little risque out there on some of these liveries. As
It's
AJ,
Southern California, Joe.
Yeah, exactly. You see worse on the street. But AJ Roper in the battle between him and Klatska is currently up back to 10th. AJ, we understand, had a bit of a spin, and that explains why we got Farron Grau a few more positions. By the way, he's all the way up to 6th where he started. So quite the return back to where he began this whole thing. Thurston just behind them. He's actually, no, excuse me, that's for a position. I thought that was a lapped car. So he lost a spot there.
And it looks like maybe Josh Brain just had an issue on the racetrack. I see the 0 mile an hour, and sure enough, there was a car off on the right side there in that short chute downhill section. So that's going to move all of these drivers up another position. So Klatska up into 10th, AJ Roper, that orange car, up into 9th, and then Richard Thurston, who's been having a pretty good run here. He's actually hunted down Klatska these, call it, last dozen laps or so. But they're very, very evenly paced in terms of their fastest lap and their race pace. This will be a good battle here in the closing few.
I'm trying to remember if we've seen Klatska race here before, because the name seems sort of familiar, but I don't think we've had him racing a lot that I've seen lately. And a top 10 is honestly nothing to scoff at. It's usually pretty high standards in this series in terms of pace. And he's fighting with a regular. AJ Roper has been long experienced in this car, so he's proved himself. As we come back to Farron Grau, Boskus can't hold him behind. Now gained a position from where he began. Farron Grau with a top 5.
It's just a story of what if for Farron Grau. Definitely a messy race that wasn't all in his control, at least in the opening lap. But I look at his pace. He's fast enough to be battling for a podium here today. Yet, oh my goodness, 23 seconds behind 4th.
43 seconds behind the leader. Yeah, he probably would have been looking somewhere around a podium, or at least fighting with the leaders for that one. This is Josh Brain. What's happened here? Oh, a big snap off into the dirt, and car just can't keep facing the right way. He gets it whipped around, but not before he loses a few more positions.
That kind of turn 5, turn 6, turn 7 complex. I mentioned how tricky it is, and if you don't commit the car to the inside, it'll either understeer off the track, or if you're too far out drivers, right, we just saw what'll happen. It basically snaps loose on you, and then you have to drive it off the racetrack yourself. It's a little bit odd saying, I have to turn in early, but if you're not on the racing line, the compression, the camber doesn't catch the car, and off you go.
It's so deceivingly difficult up at the top of the hill through here, for sure. It's a short track. It looks somewhat simple, but it's going to take a lot to master this place. And Topi's really proving that with the pace he's got up at the front. Grau now chasing off after Gernot Frisha. This is where his drive kind of ends. He's got 22 seconds to catch up to current 4th place driver. But we might have a battle for 3rd on once again as we check back in with Tomasz Bartfai. He was involved in that opening wreck coming down through that portion of the lap. And in fact, I think he's allowing through A.J. Roper to lap him now.
Oh, AJ's
no.
going to spin it right in front of Bartfai. Tomas hits the brakes. He does make contact, but just another spin for that orange number 13 car. I'm sure that this, honestly, this race is probably one to forget for a lot of the drivers.
Yeah, so we've seen, I'd say, more mistakes than we usually do in this series. At least makes mistakes of that degree. You'll get drivers that slide a little bit, that miss an apex, but not this many spins. So that, again, is a testament to the difficult nature of Willow Springs.
I also think it's the racing it produces. We think of draft pack racing as Prix, he wants to get this third place from Bercali. I didn't think that he was going to be able to catch Luca after himself and Bjorn kind of had that little bit of entanglement in turn number 1, but it's obvious that Prix has the pace over Luca. It's just a matter of if he can get around it.
I mean, we've got the big cat, and honestly, Gernot can be a bit of a bulldog sometimes. He's not willing to let go of this fight. He wants that podium position. Anything he can get, he won't settle for less until he wins a race. Unfortunately, he puts the tires off into the dirt out of turn 1. That costs him some time.
2 laps remaining, and quite honestly, it's probably about a lap and a half, depending on where Topi is. I haven't even checked because he's 7 seconds up the road from Juho Reina under no threat whatsoever. Gernot, though, this is the faster section of the racetrack for him. It seems like Luca maybe slips up through right here. This is where Gernot is so fast. Look at him close that gap again.
Coming down the hill, he knows this is where he's usually got an opportunity, but every single time Luca covers him off. We did just get the white flag for Topi Kortaniemi. 1 to go, so we're done in roughly a minute here. That means 1 more minute for Gernot Prix to find some way to get past and stay past Luca Bercali.
He kept his foot in it through turn number 9, but it's not going to be enough to draw up alongside going into the brake zone. He's going to have to look towards turn number 3. Remember, that's how he set up his initial pass, was to the outside of Bercali right here. He's feinting to the inside, trying to get Luca to take it, but does not have the momentum to carry it around.
Battle of the Alps here.
He's coming back, though. Oh, I'm sorry to take it away from you. He's trying the outside now.
He wants it. It's the battle of the Alps between the Italian and the Austrian, but we have to switch over to Topi Kortaniemi because he comes through the final corner now and to the line. It's another victory, and he closes in the gap to his points rival as he wins in California.
Nicely done from our leader, but this battle is still going on between Bercali and Prix. Juho Reina does finish in second. It's all going to come to the flat foot out of turn number 9. Gernot has to commit to it. He has to stick in it. Let's see if he can keep it on the racetrack. They are going to draft up. I think Bercali's going to keep the third.
Credit to Luca. The Italian did an amazing job on this one to hold him behind the whole time, right down to a tight finish at the end. Farron Grau looks like he's going to have to settle for 7th. He fell backwards down a couple positions since we last looked, and Jean-Francois Boscus gets a top 5 because of that. Man, 30 seconds behind the next car, strangely. Grinning just behind him as, Farron Grau in the background actually going off on the final corner again.
What I think is very impressive, he does finish the race here in 8th. Our leader, Topi, lapped all the way up to the top 10. 11th place was the first car 1 lap down.
That was frantic stuff. That's going to be hard to match for our next race out, but it gave us plenty to cheer about and lots of thrills. But for Topi Kortaniemi, probably a little bit more dull, I have to say, because he finished a full 7 seconds ahead, 6.5 seconds ahead of Juho Reina to take the victory. Juho in P2, and Luca Bercali had the most excitement of the podium, finishing P3. Gernot Prix with 4th, exactly where he started, but had to work hard to be there. Jean-Francois Boscus rounds out your top 5. Manning Grinnan with an excellent 6. How about Jason Clapper? 31 to 7th on the grid Farron Grau actually, in the end, lost 2 positions and came home 8th. Klatska was 9th, and Richard Thurston gains 10 to finish 10th.
And across the page in 11th is AJ Roper. Josh Brain is going to finish in 12th. Kirk Clapper in 13th. Barry West, the big cat. You know, we didn't talk about Barry West too much, but he had a nice race back there to finish in 14th position, up 7 from where he started. Russell Hamilton kind of got in the way a little bit to finish 15th. Ben Summers, 16th. Emilio Dicari in 17th. Bruno Araya, 18th. Don Runkle Jr. in 19th. And Thomas Willershausen finishing 20th, the first car 2 laps down.
Bart Fye, who was off on the first lap, eventually was able to finish 21st, but not great considering he started 7th. Gallus was 22nd, and Zeilbauer was 23rd. Then you get into cars even 3 laps down and still running. 24th for Kevin Parrish, Silbernagel 25th, and Simpkins 6 laps down in 26th. Bjorn Ackerman, a DNF today, same with those behind him: Jimenez, Spickett, Urquhart, Longsell, Lehman, Vandenberg, and Finnegan. A lot of drivers that did not get to the end of this race. Hoping that we get to chat with some of them. Looks like we will get to talk to Topi Kortiniemi, and we'll see if he can update us on what happened in his race, because we didn't really get to watch a whole lot of it. Topi, you kind of ran away while we had all kinds of crazy battles behind you, so enlighten us. What happened in your race?
I don't know. I had a bad start, which was kind of expected because I had a super long first gear, so I was expecting not to get off the line, either slipping the clutch too much or just bogging down the engine. That happened, and for me, Luca seemed to have some network trouble in T1, and he disappeared from my screen for a moment, and then I was on the inside and got past the 2. Don't really know anything else.
Yeah, that was about the most excitement it seemed for you all race long. Had a lot of cars getting lapped, though. Was that at least well behaved during today's race?
Oh yeah, most of this were. Of course, I refrained from passing in the second sector in the slow stuff, and a couple wanted to race for the position, but otherwise it was less anxiety than expected overall.
And on top of it, you didn't have Marco here today. So this now leaves you a lot closer on points, and that's before the drops start getting taken into account. How does that make you feel?
No, just saying that Marco couldn't make it today because I didn't want a hollow victory like this one. And see how the championship plays out in the, what do I have, 6 races to go?
I believe so, yes.
Oh, it's doable.
Yeah, I think we got a battle on our hands. Again, congratulations on a very well-run race.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
So that was Topi Kortiniemi coming home with a victory, but not seeing anybody else ready to come and chat with us. So that's going to wrap us up with a big thank you to the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Also, thanks to the team today, Joey, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next race, we are actually, I don't have that. VIR, there we go. Thank you very much to our director. That'll be Sunday, November 3rd, and that'll be at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Don't forget, we're changing our clocks over here in the States next week. And be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here. Up next, we got more racing today. The MX5 World Sim Series goes to Spa and Alton Park. There's a dramatic shift. 4:50 p.m. Eastern for those MX5s. Until we get there, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.